What if the heaviest burden you carry is not the past, but a future that never arrived? There is a strange kind of heartbreak that comes not from losing what you had, but from losing what you thought you were going to have. Most people do not realize that the deepest grief is often tied to an illusion. If you have ever felt rejected by a life you spent years planning, if you feel lost because the person you were building tomorrow with has suddenly walked away, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you see this pain forever. 1. The illusion of the promised tomorrow. Here is a truth few people want to face. We rarely just attach ourselves to a person. We attach ourselves to the story we have written about them. You planned a life together. You saw the shared home, the quiet mornings, the predictable routines, and the years stretching out into a comfortable, safe distance. You anchored your entire sense of security in that shared vision. So when that bond breaks, you do not just lose a relationship, you lose your compass. You lose your map of the world. You are left standing in a reality that feels entirely wrong, mourning a ghost of a destination you never actually reached. Buddhist wisdom teaches a profound and sometimes difficult truth. Attachment causes suffering. Yet, we often misunderstand what attachment truly means. We think it only refers to holding on to physical things or refusing to let go of the past. But one of our strongest, most dangerous attachments is to our expectations of the future. We try to freeze the river of life, demanding that it flow exactly the way we designed it in our minds. Buddhism reminds us of impermanence. It teaches us that nothing is guaranteed to remain exactly as it is today. Not our circumstances, not the promises of others, and certainly not the future. Imagine you are standing on a quiet beach, carefully drawing the blueprint of a magnificent house in the wet sand. You spend hours perfecting every room, every wall, every doorway. You become so deeply invested in this beautiful drawing that you completely forget where you are standing. And then, as it always does, the tide comes in. The waves wash over the shore, instantly erasing your lines. You can fall to your knees, weeping, fighting the ocean, screaming at the water to bring your house back. Or you can stand up, feel the cold water rushing over your feet, and remember that it was always just sand. The house was never built. In our everyday lives, we draw these blueprints constantly. We place our entire happiness in a 5-year plan. We attach our self-worth to someone else staying with us forever. We surrender our inner peace to another person's fragile promises. And when they change their mind, when the plan collapses, we feel betrayed by time itself. We sit in silence, replaying old conversations, trying to figure out how to force the dream back into existence. Ask yourself in this quiet moment, what are you truly holding on to? Are you grieving the person as they actually were, in their messy, flawed reality? Or are you grieving the perfect version of them that existed only in the tomorrow you created? Pause. Breathe. Notice the tension in your body as you try to hold on to a time that has not happened. Now, gently, let your hands open. Let the thought drift like a cloud across an open sky. You do not have to carry a tomorrow that no longer exists. Releasing this illusion is painful, but it is the only way to invite true freedom into your life. Because peace is not found in forcing the world to match your plans. It is found in making space for what is actually here. But recognizing the illusion is only the first step. Soon, the quiet emptiness settles in, and this is where the next truth begins. 2. Grieving the ghost of what could have been. What if the hardest part of moving forward is not leaving the past behind, but walking away from a future that never truly existed? Here is the truth few people want to face. When a shared life collapses, the mind plays a cruel trick. It does not just mourn the history you built together. It mourns the memories you never got the chance to make. You wake up in the morning, and for a split second, the world is safe. Everything is exactly as you planned. Then, the heavy reality crashes down. The quiet, heavy realization that the story has ended before the final chapter. You think about the trips you planned to take, the quiet evenings you assumed were guaranteed, the subtle, silent understanding that this person would stand beside you through the changing seasons of life. You are left holding all this love, all this anticipation, with nowhere to put it. It feels like standing at an invisible door, turning a heavy key in a lock that no longer exists. The weight of carrying that key is exhausting. In Buddhist thought, grief is not something to be rushed, hidden, or forcefully conquered. It is a deeply natural response to the reality of impermanence. But suffering deepens when we try to live forever inside that grief. When we build a new home in the ashes of the lost dream, we refuse to look at the open sky above us. Buddhism reminds us that pain is a passing cloud. It is heavy, it is dark, and it will bring rain. But the sky itself is never destroyed by the storm. You must allow the rain to fall without convincing yourself that the sun has disappeared forever. Imagine a weary traveler crossing a vast, empty desert. In the distance, they see a beautiful oasis. They see shimmering water, green trees, and a quiet place of rest. They spend days walking toward it, pouring all their remaining energy and hope into reaching that exact destination. But as they get closer, the image flickers and fades into the dry air. It was only a mirage, a trick of the light. The traveler falls to the hot sand, weeping. They are not crying because the desert is cruel. They are crying because the relief they depended on was never actually there. This is what happens when someone walks away from the life you planned. You feel stranded. You stare at an empty calendar. You cancel plans that were months away. You feel the sharp sting of being left behind while the rest of the world keeps moving forward. You are mourning the mirage. You are grieving for an oasis that faded away. Ask yourself in this quiet moment, are you letting the grief flow through you? Or are you holding on to it because it feels like the last remaining connection to the person you lost? What are you afraid will happen if you let the ghost disappear? Pause, breathe, let the sadness rise. Do not fight it, and do not push it away. But do not invite it to sit at your table forever. Observe the heavy feeling in your chest, and know that it is just energy moving through a space that is learning to open again. Let the feeling rise, without making it your identity. You do not have to carry water to a mirage. You are allowed to mourn, the ghost of what could have been. But peace is found when you stop letting that ghost haunt the life you still have to live. Because as the illusion fades, the darkness begins to lift. And this is where the next truth begins. Because beneath the sorrow of a broken promise, there is a quiet, powerful clarity waiting to be seen. 3. The clarity hidden in the pain. What if the shattering of your plan was not a punishment, but an awakening? Here is the truth few people want to face. We often confuse a sudden loss with a sudden failure. When a shared future is abruptly taken away, the immediate reaction is profound confusion. You wonder what you did wrong. You replay the final days, the subtle shifts in tone, the avoided glances, desperately trying to find the exact moment the foundation cracked. You feel blinded by the pain, unable to see anything but the absence of the person you loved. You feel rejected, discarded, as if your fundamental worth was tied directly to their willingness to stay. You convince yourself that losing them means losing your way. Buddhist wisdom teaches that while pain is a natural part of human existence, suffering is prolonged by our refusal to see things as they truly are. A core lesson of Buddhism is the practice of clear seeing. When we are deeply attached to a specific outcome, our vision becomes incredibly narrow. We see only what we want to see. But when the object of our attachment is removed, the veil is lifted. The intense pain you feel right now is the tearing away of illusion. Buddhism reminds us that the truth, no matter how much it hurts in the beginning, is always the most compassionate teacher. Imagine a quiet room lit only by a single flickering candle. For a very long time, you have stared only at that beautiful, fragile light. You ignored the dark corners of the room. You convinced yourself the space was exactly as perfect as you wished it to be. Then, suddenly, someone throws open the heavy curtains. Bright, blinding sunlight floods into the space. At first, your eyes burn. You squeeze them shut against the harsh, unexpected glare. But as your eyes slowly adjust, you finally see the room as it truly is. You see the thick dust on the floor. You see the deep cracks in the walls. The sunlight did not create those cracks. It only revealed what was already there. In our relationships, we often live by the dim light of that single candle. We ignore the growing incompatibilities. We overlook the quiet resentments and the mismatched values. We forget the subtle ways we slowly compromised our own inner peace just to keep the relationship alive. When the person leaves, the curtains are thrown open. The blinding sunlight pours in. You are forced to see the raw reality of the connection rather than the beautiful dream you built on top of it. You finally see where the effort was entirely one-sided. You see where your voice was quieted. Ask yourself in this clear light, what truths did you ignore just to keep the dream alive? If you step back from the immediate sting of rejection, what cracks can you now clearly see that you refused to look at before? Pause. Breathe. Let the harsh light of reality settle. Do not rush to fill the empty space with new illusions. Observe the truth of what the relationship actually was, without adding your own judgment or despair. Because clarity, even when it is born from deep heartbreak, is a profound gift. It is the solid, unshakable ground upon which you can finally rebuild. You are not starting over from nothing. You are starting over from the truth. But seeing the truth requires courage, and putting down the old map requires a deep, quiet surrender. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. Releasing the blueprint. What if the exhaustion you feel is not from the journey, but from carrying a map to a place that no longer exists? Here is the truth few people want to face. The tighter you hold on to how things were supposed to be, the more you suffer in how things actually are. You had a blueprint for your life. It dictated the steps you would take, the milestones you would reach, and the person who would stand beside you at the end. When they left, the structure collapsed, but you are still holding on to your torn half of the plans. You keep trying to build on a foundation that has already been removed. You wait for a text that does not come. You secretly keep your heart open, hoping they will realize their mistake. You refuse to move forward, because moving forward feels like admitting the plan has truly failed. Buddhist wisdom teaches that one of the deepest sources of human agony is our obsession with control. We believe that if we just plan perfectly, we can protect ourselves from the unpredictable nature of existence. But Buddhism reminds us of the power of non-attachment. This does not mean you do not care or that you give up on love. Non-attachment is a profound acceptance of what is actually happening right now. When you practice non-attachment, you are giving up the rigid demand that your happiness must arrive in exactly the package you ordered. You stop demanding that the universe bend to your specific will. Imagine you are standing in a long, quiet hallway, desperately pounding on a heavy, locked door. You have been knocking for weeks. You are bruising your hands, shouting into the silence, begging the door to open. You are so entirely focused on the wood in front of you, so obsessed with forcing your way back into the room you used to know, that you do not notice what is happening behind you. While you are staring at the locked door, other doors in the hallway have quietly opened. Fresh air is moving through the space. The sun is shining through windows you refuse to look at. But you cannot feel the warmth because your entire existence has been reduced to a door that is closed. We do this every time we obsess over someone who has chosen to walk away. We stand at the locked doors of our old relationships. We try to force closure from someone who cannot give it. We wait for an apology that will never arrive. We spend our precious, fleeting time trying to revive a dynamic that has already run its course. When you wait for someone to change their mind, you are putting your own life on hold. You are quietly telling yourself that the only valid future is the one that just rejected you. Think about your own life in this moment. Are you still standing at a locked door? What are you afraid will happen if you finally turn around and walk away from it? Is this thought bringing you peace or feeding your fear? Stop trying to force the door open. Pause, breathe, feel your feet on the ground in this exact moment. Let the feeling of loss rise, but do not let it dictate your next step. You do not have to figure out the rest of your life today. You only need to do your part, then release the outcome. Releasing the blueprint is terrifying because it means stepping into the unknown without a guarantee. But letting go of control is only the first step. Once you step away from the locked door, you can finally look back at the path that led you there. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. Seeing the patterns without blame. Have you ever noticed that when a shared dream shatters, our very first instinct is to look for someone to punish? Here is the truth few people want to face. When a future collapses, the mind desperately seeks an explanation. We want a clear villain and a clear victim. We spend countless hours analyzing the past, turning over old memories like heavy stones. We blame the other person for walking away, for breaking their promises, for leaving us in the cold. Or worse, we turn the blame inward. We blame ourselves for not being enough to make them stay. We carry the agonizing burden of, if only I had been more patient. If only I had noticed the signs earlier. We keep the pain alive by constantly putting ourselves on trial. In Buddhist thought, letting go of blame does not mean excusing hurtful behavior. Instead, Buddhist wisdom teaches us to look deeply at how things come to be. Everything in life arises from a vast, unseen web of causes and conditions. People act from their own deep-seated fears, their own conditioning, and their own silent struggles. A core lesson of Buddhism is to see this reality clearly, without adding the heavy layer of personal judgment. The relationship did not end because you were fundamentally unworthy of a future. It ended because the conditions that held you two together simply ran out. Imagine two small leaves floating down a wide, fast-moving river. For a long time, the current brings them together. They travel gently, side by side, perfectly matched in speed and direction. They flow through the quiet waters as if they are one. But eventually, the river bends, the water shifts beneath them. One leaf gets caught in a slow, quiet swirl near the edge, while the other is pulled quickly forward into the rushing rapids. The leaves did not fail each other. The river simply changed. It is the very nature of moving water to separate what it once brought together. In our everyday lives, this separation looks like shifting values, unspoken expectations, or a sudden, unexplained emotional distance. You look back at the shattered plans, and you can now clearly see the patterns. You see the moments they consistently pulled away when you needed depth. You see how you constantly shrank your own voice just to keep the peace in the house. You see the cycles of conflict that were never truly resolved, only temporarily quieted. When you step back from the blinding pain of rejection, the pattern becomes unmistakable. You see that the foundation was cracking long before the house fell down. Think about your own life in this quiet space. If you completely remove the heavy story of betrayal, what patterns can you finally recognize? Can you look at the way they loved you and the way you loved them as just a passing chapter of conditions rather than a permanent judgment of your worth? Pause, breathe, step out of the courtroom in your mind. You do not need a guilty verdict to find inner peace. Observe the memory rising and let it pass without adding the sharp sting of blame. Because when you drop the exhausting need to punish, your hands are finally empty. You create the quiet space needed to understand why the path truly had to end. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. The wisdom of the closed door. What if the door that suddenly slammed shut in your face was not a barrier, but a profound act of protection? Here is the truth few people want to face. We often view a sudden rejection as a permanent curse. When the person you were building a life with suddenly walks away, the rejection feels like a final verdict. You stand in the silence of what was supposed to be your shared future, and you feel entirely abandoned. You convince yourself that because this specific path ended, all paths to happiness have been destroyed. You believe that they held the only key to your peace, and by leaving, they took your entire destiny with them. Buddhist wisdom teaches that much of our agony comes from a rigid narrowing of our vision. When we are deeply attached, our mind becomes incredibly stubborn. We convince ourselves there is only one correct way for our life to unfold. But Buddhism reminds us of the vast, open nature of existence. It teaches that a closed door is simply the natural conclusion of a specific set of conditions. What feels like an unbearable rejection is often just reality violently realigning you with the truth. When you stop fighting the closed door, you begin to see that it was never keeping you out of your true life. It was keeping you from settling for an illusion. Imagine a tiny, ancient seed buried deep under the cold, crushing weight of the dark earth. For a long time, the seed feels completely trapped. It feels the intense pressure of the heavy soil pressing down on it from all sides. It assumes this suffocating darkness is an absolute failure. It fights the weight, wishing desperately to return to the light and open air. But what the seed does not realize is that the dark, heavy soil is the exact environment required to crack its hard outer shell. Without the crushing weight, the shell would never break open. Without the darkness, the roots would never reach deep enough to find the water it needs to survive. The environment that feels like a burial is actually the very foundation of its transformation. We experience this exact same burial when our carefully constructed future is taken away. The end of a relationship feels like the weight of the dark soil crushing the breath out of you. You feel deeply left behind. You watch others step easily into the milestones you were supposed to reach. You feel the heavy pressure of a timeline that has completely fallen apart. But the truth is, this crushing weight is breaking open the hard shell of your old identity. It is forcing you to grow roots of self-reliance, boundaries, and deep inner peace that you never would have developed if the old plan had stayed intact. Ask yourself in this heavy silence, are you still staring at the closed door, demanding that it open? What if this ending, as agonizing as it is the exact environment you need to finally grow in a direction you were too afraid to choose? Pause. Breathe. Stop demanding that the dark soil turn back into open air. Let the environment do its work. Observe the quiet space around you without immediately rushing to fill it. The closed door is not a punishment. It is a boundary drawn by reality itself. But accepting the closed door requires you to fundamentally shift how you see yourself in the world. And this is where the next truth begins. Because when you stop looking for security in another person, you must finally learn to find it within. 7. Reclaiming your inner ground. What if the security you have been desperately searching for was never meant to be held in someone else's hands? Here is a truth that is incredibly hard to accept. When we build a future entirely around another human being, we slowly and silently stop building ourselves. You merged your life so completely with theirs that their presence became your emotional gravity. You outsourced your happiness. You handed them the heavy responsibility of your inner peace. So when they walked away, they did not just take the future. It felt like they took your very foundation. You are left feeling entirely empty, believing that because they took their love away, you are suddenly less than you were before. You wander through your daily life feeling unanchored, waiting for someone or something else to tell you who you are supposed to be. Buddhist wisdom teaches that anything placed outside of yourself is subject to the winds of change. If your peace depends on the weather, you will always live in fear of the storm. In Buddhism, there is a profound teaching about finding true refuge. A true refuge cannot be a person, a place, or a promise, because all of those things are impermanent. True refuge can only be found within your own awakened mind, in your own unshakable presence. It reminds us that your wholeness was never borrowed. It was always yours. Imagine a delicate green vine growing in a dense forest. It desires to reach the sunlight, but it does not want to grow its own trunk. Instead, it wraps itself tightly around a massive, towering oak tree. For years, the vine thrives. It climbs higher and higher, using the strength of the oak to touch the sky. It feels incredibly secure, convinced that the oak tree will stand forever. But one night, a violent storm rolls through the forest. Lightning strikes, and the great oak tree falls to the forest floor. The vine is completely devastated. It lies crushed in the dirt, believing its life is over. It thinks it has lost its strength, but the vine did not lose its strength. It only lost the illusion that it could not survive without the tree. We do this in our relationships constantly. We become the vine. We wrap our daily routines, our weekend plans, our self-worth, and our deepest dreams around the presence of another person. We rely on their validation to feel successful. We rely on their companionship to feel safe. When the relationship suddenly ends, we collapse into the dirt. We feel broken. But you are not broken. You have simply lost the structure you were leaning on. You are being forced to grow your own trunk. You are being asked to plant your own deep roots. Think about your own life in this unanchored space. What parts of your own heart did you abandon to keep the relationship alive? Are you truly mourning the loss of their specific soul, or are you mourning the loss of the structure they provided? Pause. Breathe. Feel the physical ground beneath your feet right now. You are still standing. Bring your energy back into your own body. You do not have to lean on a memory to stay upright. Take back the pieces of yourself that you handed over for safekeeping. Reclaiming your inner ground takes time, and it takes quiet courage. But once you realize you can stand on your own, the fear of the future begins to fade. And this is where the final truth begins, because the path ahead is no longer written, and that is its greatest gift. 8. Walking forward into the unknown. What if the greatest freedom of your life is hidden in the very future you never got to live? Here is the truth that brings everything together. You began this journey carrying a heavy, agonizing weight. You were mourning a blueprint drawn in the sand, grieving for a mirage that faded in the desert, and bruising your hands against a locked door. You felt crushed under the dark soil of rejection, convinced that because the person you planned your tomorrow with had walked away, your tomorrow had simply ceased to exist. But look at where you are standing now. The illusion has been shattered, but you have not been destroyed. The heavy plans have fallen away, but the quiet, unshakable core of who you are remains. In Buddhist thought, the unknown is not a terrifying void. It is the only place where true life actually happens. The past is a memory, and the future is simply a projection of the mind. The only reality is this present moment. When we stop trying to force the universe to match our specific, rigid plans, we stop suffering. We realize that non-attachment is not about becoming cold or losing our capacity to love. It is about trusting the natural flow of existence. It is stepping into the vast, open space of not knowing and realizing you are entirely safe there. Imagine you are standing on the edge of a deep, quiet river. For years, You carried a heavy, detailed map that told you exactly where the river was supposed to go. You stared at the map so intensely that you stopped looking at the water. When the wind suddenly blew the map out of your hands, you panicked. You thought you were completely lost. You spent days crying on the riverbank, searching the mud for pieces of the torn paper. But eventually, you stop searching. You stand up, and for the first time, you actually look at the river. You see how the sunlight reflects on the water. You see how the current moves naturally around the stones. You realize you never actually needed the map. The river already knows where it is going. All you have to do is get in the boat and let it carry you. This is the profound beauty of your shattered plan. The map is gone. The person who promised to travel with you has stepped off the boat. You are no longer bound by the rigid expectations of what your life was supposed to look like at this exact age, in this exact year. The empty calendar you have been staring at with so much dread is not a punishment. It is a blank page. The patterns you can now clearly see are no longer weapons you use to blame yourself. They are lanterns, quietly lighting the path ahead, showing you exactly what you will never settle for again. Think about your own life in this final quiet space. What if the universe did not reject you? What if it simply redirected you? What if the life you are actually meant to live is so much wider, so much deeper, and so much more peaceful than the narrow plan you were so desperately trying to hold on to? Pause, breathe. Let the heavy burden of the promised tomorrow fall from your shoulders. You do not need to figure out the rest of your life today. You do not need to carry a ghost. Step away from the locked door. Feel the open air on your face. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. Let life meet you where you are.